guys, welcome to today's episode of Community Links, where service meets students. I'm Caitlin Pajus.
And I'm Alyssa McFadden. On today's episode, we're going to get to know Generosity, a local paper in our area.
Later, Cali Montana will sit down with us to share her experience with one of our Lasallian immersion volunteer experiences, Equipo Esperanza.
Without further ado, we're here to talk with Julie Zeglen to talk about Generosity and how they spread their message of community. So, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for joining us. We have a Temple alum, which is awesome. Go Philly. And Generosity is based out of Philadelphia, so a lot of good Philly vibes today.
Yep.
How did you get your start with Generosity?
Yeah, so Generosity is a Philadelphia-based social impact news site. And so I got involved with it just a couple of months ago. I'm the editor of the site. I started as a reporter at a local, hyper-local community news weekly out in the Fishtown, Kensington neighborhood the year after I graduated college. And then I became the editor of that paper after a couple of months, and then just made the transition over to Generosity this past October.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
So, at Temple, what did you study, and did it kind of help you find your niche in these news sites?
Yeah, so I wasn't a journalism major. I was a media studies major, and I focused more on media theory, how people interact with their media, did some research, and I was a psych minor. But I always loved writing, and I always loved social causes. And I put both of those into, or those interests came out in some of the internships that I did. So I interned at the Leeway Foundation, which is a local arts grant-making institution. And I interned, when I studied abroad in London, I worked at Variety, which is an entertainment magazine. So I was always focused on these areas. And then I feel really lucky now that I'm able to write about social causes, people doing social good in Philadelphia. We don't focus exclusively on nonprofits, but we write a lot about nonprofits, foundations, social enterprises, which are socially minded for-profits, so like businesses that have some sort of social return on them. And we get to tell people's stories, and that's my favorite part, getting to know local people who are doing a lot of good in their community or who are leading organizations that are, helping other people succeed. And it does relate to my schooling, but I feel lucky to have ended up in it.
That's awesome. Definitely. How did you find Generosity?
Yeah, I'd actually freelanced for Generosity the year after I graduated from Temple. I graduated in 2013, so just a couple years ago. And I knew of it as a site that wrote about, again, good stuff happening in Philly. And I kept in touch with some of the people who were on the team at the time. And then I learned about the opening the job I ended up getting, because Generosity was taken over by Technically Media before it was its own nonprofit. That was founded by Sandra Baldino and her husband Frank, who were local philanthropists. And then in the fall, Technically Media took it over, and that's a for-profit media company, locally based. We're out of the Curtis Center at 7th and Walnut. And they also run Technically Philly, which is a tech website. So it's the same idea of Generosity, which is that it's local and it covers a specific community within the overall city, but they're tech and we're social impact.
Mm-hmm. Very cool. Very awesome. So when you're looking to find people or companies or nonprofits to write about, where do you go and how do you find out what's the newest thing that's happening?
We've been around Generosity has been around for about 4 years. And so it's pretty well established within the social impact community. People know us and people come to us with stories pretty often.
Okay.
But a lot of reporting is done just through making new connections. And so since I've only been on the beat for a couple of months, it's a matter of me going out to events, introducing myself to people, and then having those connections so that people know me to let me know when stories are happening, as well as just picking up on trends. Events themselves can be stories. Taking note of interesting people. Leadership changes are big. So if there's a new executive director of a nonprofit or something, we like to report on that.
Very cool.
Are there any stories that stick out to you that you've either covered or have seen, or like did your research before, like you started working for them and you found that really stick out to you?
Yeah, two come to mind. The first is a story about failure, which is something that we actually love to cover. It sounds really weird, but we like to cover failures of programs that didn't work out, or like social enterprises that didn't work out, because people learn from those. People aren't so willing to talk about failure as they are about successes, but you can learn a lot from them. So this particular story, my reporter, Tony Abraham, wrote, and it is about a social enterprise, so again, a mission-minded for-profit, that the product was they were going to be able to enable people to make charitable donations within video games. So it'd be like an add-on to video games. And it sounded like a great idea. They had the whole prototype ready. They raised $500,000 in investment money, and then the product didn't go anywhere. They couldn't find a buyer. And so all that money was basically gone to waste. But that's pretty common for startups, and that narrative isn't told very often. And the person who Tony interviewed was very forthright about the things that he would have done differently. Maybe the market just wasn't ready for his product. And so it was, that got a lot of good response, because I think that people are grateful for those stories. We try to be realistic about the things that we talk about. And then another story is also by my reporter, Tony, but totally different topic. He accompanied a formerly homeless person who is selling the One Step Away newspapers, which is One Step Away is an organization specifically for people to sell these newspapers that focus on homelessness issues. And they're usually in Center City. They're wearing the bright yellow vests.
Yeah.
And so the people who are selling the papers get to keep the proceeds of the sales. Tony went along and he tried to sell some papers himself. It's really hard to do that because people are just walking right by you. They don't even listen. You might get even negative responses. So we only sold like $7 worth of papers that day, whereas his partner sold like $40 or something like that. But the story he wrote was focused mainly on this guy he was selling with, whose name is Brian, who was, again, very forthright about how he fell into homelessness. It was just a series of unfortunate circumstances that happened in his life, and how he is now trying to get himself back on his feet, basically. And part of that is with the income that he gets from selling the papers. So Tony wrote this story about this guy, and then it was published on our site. It was also published in the One Step Away newspaper. And someone ended up, a couple weeks later, emailing Tony and saying that they wanted to give Brian a job, the guy he'd written about.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and that was awesome, for Brian. We felt really good about it because we were that direct connection.
Yeah.
I have no idea if the job worked out, but I like to think so. And it was just, and that was a really good example of some direct impact that we could have through our reporting, which is a great goal to have for us. So.
That's I know they say it was a heartwarming story, but literally my heart is warmed. That's a wonderful story. I love that.
And that's what I was going to ask has to go along with who you're writing for, who's reading your newspaper, and who is, I guess, using it to meet new people and find out about these amazing people who are doing this work. Who's your target audience, I guess, would be my question.
Yeah. We write for people who are working within social impact, so we try to be a business journal for those people. So staff at nonprofit, everyone from executive directors to people who want to get into a nonprofit, the people who are making the decisions about funding at foundations. So maybe they'll read about an organization that we write about. It's not a direct goal of ours to influence, who they give money to, but sometimes maybe that would happen. And I guess anybody who's just interested in getting involved in something positive that's happening in Philly.
And I think that speaks measures about our city, even though we hear a lot of negative comments, whether it is our high rate of poverty that occurs in the city and everything. But the fact that we have a whole news site devoted to social impact and these wonderful stories, I think it speaks measures about our city, and it kind of makes a little prideful to know that there's enough of it going on that you can make a career out of this, and that's wonderful.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I just, the reason that Generosity was founded in the first place by the Baldinos was because they didn't think that there was an outlet to tell these stories. The focus of the site has shifted a little bit over the years. nowadays we try to focus more on organizations that are being better about enacting their mission, so maybe being more efficient rather than just applauding people for doing some great thing. But the scene that we cover is the same, and it is something that's underreported, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we don't have that much time left, but one of the goals of our show here is to see how LaSalle students can get involved. So do you guys have interns? Do you have job openings? Do you need reporters, volunteers? How do you get new people, I guess, involved in generosity?
Yeah, we have a freelance program that, I'm looking for contributors. It's somebody ideally who's familiar with Philadelphia, with, the social impact scene, ideally. But that definitely, we have monthly meetups in which we have a local expert on some social impact related topic come and talk about their best practices. So you can come to those meetups, and then reading our stories and sharing the stories of the people who are doing the city good.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
And I'm sure you have like social media sites or anything that students can, we'll definitely retweet it on our Twitter and the LaSalle TV Twitter, anything like that to spread the word. This might be asking too much of you, but do you have any stories that like are currently in the works that you think might be something that we can get a sneak peek into real fast?
Ooh, yeah, let me think. This week I am working on a new program at Drexel actually called UConnect. That grew out of the Lift Philadelphia organization, and that was, it connected students to community residents and helped them access resources like tax help or just other public services. Lift Philadelphia shut down a couple months ago, so then UConnect is kind of taking its place, and students in Drexel classes are working directly with West Philly residents and helping them access these public resources. So I'm really excited to write about that.
Yeah, that's exciting.
Cool.
Well, we look forward to keeping a connection between LaSalle and generosity, and I look forward to reading the articles more and keeping up with what's going on at UConnect and any other news that's coming up. That's awesome. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
And we hope that you all enjoyed hearing about generosity as much as we did.
After this quick break, we're going to learn about Equipo Esperanza with Cali, Montana.
To be self-evident that all men are created equal.
The torch has been passed to a new generation of Americans.
The American dream need not forever be deferred.
This is the richest and the most powerful country.
For my next classes.
%31% of female victims stalked by an intimate partner were sexually assaulted by that partner. For more help, visit www.victimsofcrime.org.
We're back with Community Links, the show that brings service to you. We're here with Equipo Esperanza trip member Cali Montana to learn more about her experience in the Dominican Republic and how it has shaped her freshman year. So, hi, Cali.
Hi, thanks for having me, you guys.
Thanks for joining us, one of our fellow comm majors.
Yes.
So, you basically live in this building too. But
Yes, I'm shocked there's not a bed in here yet.
Yeah, right?
I'll get there eventually.
Yeah, no, most definitely. So just to start off, how's freshman year? How is it coming in? What's your opinion of community service at LaSalle in general so far?
Freshman year is going great. Cannot complain at all. But community service has always been very important to me. Ever since I was little, I remember doing community service, and I just always wanted to help out in a bigger way and go out of the country and do some community service. So that was a huge reason why I ended up applying to go on Equipo Esperanza, and it was life-changing.
Awesome. I love that word.
Yeah.
Even everyone uses it, but like I can tell by the way you're saying it that you actually like it's truly life-changing.
It
that's
really
awesome.
was.
Yeah, and we know here from like a lot of the shows that we're covering and through UMass's website, there's so many different trips to choose from.
Yes, there's
How
tons.
did you choose the Dominican Republic and Equipo Esperanza? I know you mentioned that you wanted to go out of the country, but even then there's like 4 or 5 different trips that you could have chosen.
Right. Well, each trip there was ones that you could build homes with and ones to teach kids as well. But this time I really wanted to get out there and help rebuild a home for a family. So that was a huge factor that led me to Equipo Esperanza. Another reason why was I always loved the Dominican Republic and just the people there. I mean, I'd never been there before, but I always heard stories about how appreciative these people are. And I was like, you know what? I need to go there.
Mm-hmm.
I need to see it for me, myself.
Gotcha. That's awesome. So were you prepared for what you saw once you finally got there? Did you have any like prepping besides like I know the surf ships all have meetings that they meet weekly or whatever,
Right.
but did you have any idea what to expect?
No. I was going in just like, you know what? It's going to be fun. I'm not having any expectations. I just wanted to go in clear-minded, which I guess it was a smart idea, but when you actually see it, it's a huge culture shock. I was there and there's cows in the streets, there's people on motorcycles holding these chickens. You're just like, what? It's completely different. People do not know how to drive there. They drive on the opposite side of the road. It was, yeah, it's something else, but such an amazing place to be. I mean, the people are fantastic. You would just walk and the people scream all out of you and just wave and have such smiles on their faces that it's like, oh my gosh, like
You just felt instantly welcomed.
yes, that's exactly it.
That's awesome. That's very cool.
So when you, like Alyssa and I mention all the time that we went on Project Appalachia because it's a huge part of our lives. I can only imagine how it's different going to the Dominican Republic though, because even though we were going to Harlan County, Kentucky, which is a very impoverished area, and we got to notice a little bit of a culture shock. You mentioned it was a huge culture shock. Right. One of our friends mentioned that when you go to a country such as that, like you eat off of like a Frisbee, and like, can you talk more about that? Because I think that's kind of very unique for those third world country trips, as much as it is a huge culture shock going to like an impoverished place. Like I said, within the United States, they're still within the boundaries of the United States. So it's just totally different for you. So I want to hear all about that.
Yes, we did eat off of a Frisbee, which was, they told us about that beforehand, but you don't realize it until it actually happens, and it is the weirdest thing ever. But during that week, I got used to it, but it was kind of weird, but it was okay. But also that what was really crazy was we slept in hammocks.
That's awesome.
And
I mean, her dream.
Yeah,
it really is. It's like Caitlin's dream.
I love a good
honestly,
hammock.
it's pretty nice because it like rocks you to bed, but after a while it was like, all right, now
we got a little kink in your neck.
Yeah, now it's time for a bed. But it's completely different over there. I mean, these people are living in these little shacks that aren't even being held up, and aren't even properly, I mean, they don't even have bathrooms in there. It's just mind-boggling when you think about it. And being there, I mean, we weren't able, it's gonna sound gross, but we weren't able to shower for like a whole week. We used like baby wipes to clean ourselves off. So when you're coming from, you know, being able to we still brushed our teeth, but you know, using like clean water, but when you're just so used to like showering every day and using a regular toilet, it's crazy how these people go without that. And we just are like, oh, I'm just gonna go take a 30-minute shower. When these
it's no big deal at all here.
Exactly. When these people can't even take a 5-minute shower, and the shower water they use, it's not even clean water. So it's also a huge factor.
Yeah, most definitely.
Yeah. And what was the weather like? Was it nice and warm? This was spring break, so it must have been nice.
It was very nice. It rains all the time there. It rains at least once a day. But we mostly had nice weather. I mean, there was one day that it was really hot out, and we're like all sweating and dying. But storm came in, it cooled it all off. So the weather, absolutely beautiful. I mean, after it would storm, rainbows would come out almost every time. So, so beautiful.
What a picture-perfect service trip you had.
I know, right?
It really was. I mean, we finished the home for the family, which was even better. And then that night, they came and had dinner with us.
Oh, that's awesome.
So it was such a rewarding feeling being there. And every time I talk about it, I have such a smile on my face.
I can tell.
Oh my gosh. I look back at pictures, I'm just like, wow, like, how else? Like, there's just no words.
Yeah.
You mentioned you weren't able to shower for a week, so I have to ask, what was the plane ride back like? Like, did you have people who just went there?
People did stare at us.
Yeah, because I'm sure you had people coming back from like the typical spring break vacation, and they were probably like, oh my gosh, I'm stuck with these kids on a plane.
I was in between these two adults, and they looked at me. I was in the middle, and they looked at me like, what, did this girl like not realize like you can shower? But yeah, when we went back to JFK, people just stared at us because you could smell us. You could smell us from a mile away.
And you probably don't even notice it until you see people who do shower every day. And you're
we
like,
all got so used to the smell.
That's what soap smells like.
Right. We all got so used to how we smelled that we were just like, none of us smell. It's good. And then like we got off the plane and we're like, wow.
Yeah.
It's a strong.
Yeah, strong. So yeah,
what a wonderful trip.
They had rainbows.
Rainbows.
You know what? I would do it again in a heartbeat. And when you're there, a shower is just like whatever at that point.
Yeah.
The rain is your shower.
That's so beautiful.
That is.
The rain literally is your shower.
I'm gonna get that on a pillow.
You know, when the rain would come, we would take off our hats and be like washing our hair. I mean, the last day we went to the ocean, I took a shower like in the ocean.
Wow. Yeah, that salt really washes everything away.
Yeah.
I mean, it probably helps a little bit. But anyway, I'm sorry, we're getting distracted.
I had to ask.
You had to ask about the shower. But you mentioned, are you planning to go back? Do you want to next year?
I would love to go back.
Yeah.
So I'll apply next year and see what happens. But I'm also open to maybe going to another country or, you know, staying in the States because the States, we do need help as well here. So.
Would you ever lead?
I would.
Yeah.
I would love to.
Yeah.
How many people were on your trip?
All together, there was 14 of us, and that was with 2 student head coordinators and 2 adult head coordinators, and then the rest were students.
Very fun. So you guys got to form like a little family amongst all of you?
Yes.
I hate to say that's one of the best parts, but it sort of is, because as much as you are making such a change in that place or that country that you go to, a lot of people back at home don't appreciate it, but you have this little family that knows what you went through. They know the love you have for the place, so that's a great thing. So you have 14 new family members.
Right. I mean, at the beginning, we didn't think, like, you know, we had our weekly Sunday night meetings. We would play these icebreakers, and no one ever thought that we were going to be close and everything. But being there for a week, you get very close with them, and you build this bond like no other.
How much does it cost to go on the service trip?
It was a total of $825.
Okay.
And then we fundraised the rest.
So you did a lot of fundraising activities?
Yes, we had to go to tons of restaurants and businesses and ask if they would like to donate anything. So That was a long process, but it
But
paid
well
off.
worth it,
It
right?
was very well worth it.
Yeah, most definitely.
And fundraising is supposed to be fun, so did you get to know the people you were going with a little bit beforehand, or what are some fun activities from these fundraising?
Well, so we were all paired into groups of 3. So my group, we were just like, all right, we texted each other, we're like, yeah, we really got to go get this done. So we all just kind of went onto the subway and went into Center City. We didn't really talk that much beforehand, just like at the groups. And from there, we just kind of, started a bond and became friends and,
Awesome. That's awesome.
That's great. So we always ask this. We love this question. What theme song would you give your trip? In few words or less.
A theme song. We're all in this together, High School
I
Musical.
love it.
That's awesome.
That's a gorgeous one. And you said you'd go back there. What do you think going to the DR would be like? Probably definitely different. So that's cool that you got this different view of the Dominican Republic doing service versus like going there on vacation. So thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much. We want to thank you for joining us on this episode of Community Links. We hope that you find your special group on campus and try to get involved.
Yeah.
If you have any questions about how to contact us, you can visit our website at lasalle.edu/LaSalleTV or follow us on Twitter at CL_LA_SALLE.
Yeah, you can also get more information about LaSalle service opportunities on UMass's website at studentaffairs.lasalle.edu/UMass. On behalf of myself here and everyone here at the studio, we hope you have a wonderful day.